Welcome. I'm Adina Wancha, and I guide high-achieving men and women create extraordinary lives and loving, ecstatic relationships. The intention of this podcast is to empower both men and women when it comes to dating, relationships, and intimacy. I believe that by both men and women being healthy, powerful, and loving, we can be in thriving partnerships and create a better world together. If this is something you resonate with, then please keep listening. In this episode, I am talking about 5 conversations both men and women need to have when dating. Why? Because there are 5 main areas of conflict in every couple, and these are money, parenting, relationship with relatives, religion, and last but not least, sex and intimacy. What many people discover after being in a relationship or even married after some time is that they have opposite views and even incompatible behaviors when it comes to these 5 main areas. And what happens in many of these couples is that many have conflicts, and with time, they become estranged and disconnected from each other, and many of these couples end up in divorce. So, to avoid committing to someone with whom you are incompatible, it would be wise to discuss these things while you are dating this person. And dating means going out with this person or engaging into various activities with them in order to discover them and discern if they would make a good partner for you on long term. I do not recommend having sex with a person while you are dating them and you haven't made any commitment to them and them to you. Why? Because sex clouds the mind, both in men and women, but mostly in women. And when you choose the person you'll hopefully spend the rest of your life with, you also want to be rational. You do not want to make a decision based solely on emotional connection and sexual chemistry because many people do this and they realize after some time that they made a mistake. So save yourself the time and suffering and start being more cerebral in your dating and relationships. So let's take each of these areas and see the things you need to pay attention to and what questions you can ask to assess if you and the other person would make good partners on long term. The first one is money. This is in most couples, if not in all, at some point a source of conflict or even divorce. How you can have less conflicts about money is to establish from dating if both of you have a healthy relationship with money or at least you are making progress towards one. The goal during dating is to observe how this person deals with money and what things you have similar views on and which you don't, and if those are deal breakers to you. For example, ladies, notice if the man pays the bill and leaves a tip when you go out. This may seem a small thing, but it says many things about a man's character and masculinity. I was once on a date and the man paid the bill, but he didn't leave any tip. I didn't like this as the service was fine and there weren't any obvious reasons for him not to leave a tip. So I left a tip because for me it's important to appreciate people who provide a service. And that was the moment I realized I do not like men who are so thrifty. Also, notice how he speaks about money. Does he brag about how much money he makes or how easily he makes it? Because this can show sometimes that this person would do anything for money. Drug dealers make money too, right? Or from what he shares with you, You can see that he has strong values and education around money. For example, I was once on a date and the man told me about how he's investing his money. And this is something I appreciated a lot about him. A man who saves and invests displays maturity and responsibility, and these are qualities you want in a husband. Basically, ladies, if the man doesn't have a good relationship with money, he will not make a good husband. Money matters a lot in a relationship. So pay attention if the man you're dating is financially stable, if he has debt, how he makes his money, how he spends his money, if he saves and invests, if he is working towards making more money. Gentlemen, notice how the woman speaks about money and what she spends it on. Does she enjoy luxury items? Because if she does, she will expect them from you too. And this is not a problem if you enjoy buying her expensive stuff, but it will be a problem if you don't. Another thing, does she make much more money than you? Because this can lead to a reversed polarity, meaning her being more in her masculine energy and you as a man being more in your feminine energy once you are in a relationship, if you do not hold the polarity consciously. Also, does she want you to be the provider and pay for the house, the utilities, and the food? Does she want to do 50-50 and split the financial costs of living? What are her financial expectations from you? Generally, women like shopping and spending money. And I know this because I am a woman. And what you want to assess when you choose your wife is if she is responsible when it comes to money, or if she behaves like a spoiled little girl who wants all the shiny things no matter the cost. It will be very hard to accumulate wealth when one of you spends like there is no tomorrow. Here is my opinion on money and relationships. If you are an adult, man or woman, you need to have the capacity to make your own money and support yourself financially. If you cannot do that, you are still a child. Also, I believe that for a man to feel like a man in the relationship, he needs to be mostly in his masculine energy. So he needs to provide and protect his family. And for the woman to feel like a woman in the relationship, she needs to be mostly in her feminine energy and be provided for and offer her partner nourishment, respect, admiration, and appreciation. Both the man and the woman need to take care of one another. Marriage is ultimately a commitment to take care of each other and support one another. And another thing to look at, both for the men and the women, does the person you are dating have any debt? And if so, what is it for? Because it's very different to have debt for buying a house than entering into debt for buying designer bags or expensive watches. And if they do have debt, what is their plan for paying out this debt? And another thing is that generally in a couple, there is one who spends more and one who saves more. It's more challenging when both people are spenders. And also, generally, it's better for the man to be the saver and for the woman to be the spender. And why am I saying this? Because saving means putting a container around money, and containment is related to masculine energy, while spending means being more in flow and pleasure, which is related to the feminine energy. And generally, it's healthier for the man to be more in his masculine energy and for the woman to be more in her feminine energy. Point number two, parenting. In case neither of you doesn't have children, you still need to discuss if both of you want children and if so, how many you want. Some people don't want children, and it's important to tell this when you are dating. You cannot go into a relationship knowing that you do not want to have children and the other person wants to have children. It's not fair to you or to them. If only one of you has children, then is this a deal breaker for the other person? Some people do not want to be in a relationship with a person who already has children. And this is fine. We are not all the same. We do not want the same things. Now, what to pay attention to in case you don't have children and the other person has children? What's their relationship with their child and with their previous partner? How much of their time, energy, and money are spent on the child and the previous partner? What are their expectations for you when it comes to this child? Do they want you to have an active role as a mother or father or a more passive one? What's their view on discipline? How do they define it and what do they consider appropriate? And can you agree to their perspective? What's their perspective on the child's education, both when it comes to life values and studies? Are you two on the same page? Now, what to think about in case you are the one who has children and the other person doesn't have children? What kind of relationship do you want this person to have with your child? How much time, energy, and money do you want them to spend on your child? What are your expectations for them when it comes to this child? Do you want them to have an active role as a mother or a father or a more passive one? What's their view on discipline? How do they define it and what they consider appropriate? Can you agree with them? What's their perspective on the child's education, both when it comes to life values and studies? Are you two on the same page? Now, in case both of you want to have children, who will be the main caretaker and whose career will come first? Will the mother be staying home with the child? And if so, for how long? And who will support the household costs if the caretaker doesn't have any income in this period? As a woman, what are your expectations from your partner when it comes to being a father? As a man, what are your expectations from your partner when it comes to being a mother? What's your view on discipline? How do you and the other person define it? And what do you and the other person consider appropriate? What's your and their perspective on the child's education, both when it comes to life values and studies? Are you two on the same page on this? Being a mother is different from being a father. Generally, mothers are more nurturing and softer, while fathers are more concerned with discipline and making sure the child will become a functional and responsible adult. A child needs both maternal and paternal love. A child needs both play and responsibilities, both unconditional love and working to earn someone's respect, both spoiling and consequences for unacceptable behaviors. You and your partner need to become a team in parenting your children so they become healthy, happy, and productive adults. Your job when dating is to assess if the other person can be a good parent. Having a child is very different from raising one. Almost anyone on this planet can have a child, but not many people are also good parents. Point number three, relationship with relatives. Here are some things both men and women need to pay attention to and even inquire about when dating. What is the other person's relationship with their mother and father? Are they close to their family? And if so, how close? Is this person estranged from their family? Don't they have any relationship with their family? And if so, what is the reason for that? How much are their parents involved in their life and decision making? Are there any family members this person takes care of physically, financially, emotionally, or will have to take care of in the future? As a woman, here are some things to pay attention to when it comes to men. Is it too much of a mama's boy? How is his relationship with his father? Who was his masculine model growing up? How much do his parents interfere in his life? Needless to say, ladies, that if he still lives with his parents, he is not ready for marriage. And also, ladies, pay attention if his family likes or at least accepts and respect you. And this is why I'm sharing this. I have someone in my life who got married, but his family didn't accept her from the beginning. Like, however, he decided that this is the woman he wants to marry, and they got married, although his family was openly against him marrying her. Now, her husband, while he loves her, is still trying to make his parents proud of him and doesn't always intervene when his parents are not very nice to her. He has started putting some boundaries, but because he still needs his parents' approval, he hasn't done what a man should do in this situation. And as you can imagine, this has led to some conflict between the two of them. And there have been moments when she had considered breaking up with him because of these problems. Now, they do love each other and are working towards a solution. And I believe that once both of them become more emotionally mature and heal this need to be loved and accepted by his parents, this situation will not affect them so much. Ladies, a man who is still trying to get the approval of his parents is not mature enough for marriage. Yes, he may love you and do his best to take care of you. But if the umbilical cord hasn't been cut, you will not feel very safe with this man. And yes, you will have fights with him, and at times you will not feel very loved by him, which in time can lead to separation if nothing changes in his dynamic with his family. So pay attention to this. As a man, you need to understand that the relationship with your spouse comes before the relationship with your parents. If you are not ready for this, then you are not ready for marriage. This doesn't mean that you do not respect or help your parents. It means that if you want a happy and long marriage, you need to cut the umbilical cord, especially with your mom. As an adult, you cannot allow your parents to run your life. Of course, you can listen to what they have to say and their advice, but you need to make your own judgments and decisions. And I saw this also in my family. For example, my grandmother never accepted her daughter in law because she wanted my uncle to marry another woman. Now, the daughter in law was smart and minded her own business and didn't allow my grandmother to intervene in her marriage. She set boundaries and didn't tolerate my grandmother's animosity affecting her and her marriage. Now, neither my grandmother nor my aunt are bad people. They are good people, but they just cannot really stand one another. However, they do tolerate each other because they both love the same man, one as a wife and one as a mother. And even though they don't really like each other, they do have respect for one another. And I believe that if his family doesn't love you, at least they need to respect you. Ladies, if his family does not respect you, you will have big problems in your marriage. There are couples who have gotten a divorce because his family didn't accept her. So pay a lot of attention to this when you meet and interact with his family. Now, as a man, you can pay attention to these things. How often does she expect to visit her parents? For example, a divorced client of mine has shared with me that in his previous marriage, he had to visit her family every 2 weeks because that is what she wanted. Of course, sometimes he wanted to do this, but most of the times he would have preferred do something else. And ultimately, this was one of the things that was making him unhappy in his marriage. Another thing, how is she getting along with her mother, father, siblings, and other family members? Does she seem to have harmonious relationships, or is there a lot of drama in her family? And how is she behaving with your family? Is she respectful towards them? And also, can she put healthy boundaries with them if necessary? Point number 4, religion. Now, I am not a religious person. I consider myself a spiritual person. I learn and respect all religions, but I do not feel that I belong to any of them. And I am sharing this so you know where I stand. And here are some things to pay attention to when dating. If you belong to a certain religion and the other person doesn't, do you expect them to take on your religion? Do you expect them to have the same beliefs and rituals like you do? For example, going to church on a certain day, or dressing in a certain way, or praying in a certain way. What about if you have children? In what religion will you raise them? If you are atheist or agnostic, will you be able to allow your partner to practice their religion? If your partner is atheist or agnostic, will you be able to respect their beliefs and not impose your religion on them? Get curious and discover more about the relationship this person has with God. For example, I didn't really resonate with the religion I was born in. Some things didn't make sense to me, and I pushed away God because of my religion. Later in life, I rediscovered God, and I have my own beliefs and views about God, life, and the world. And yes, for me, it's important for my future partner to be a man of God, even though maybe he doesn't subscribe to any religion. His character means more to me. So even though a person is not necessarily religious, do they have a good character? Do they have integrity? Do they have a moral compass that guides their life? For example, my father is sort of an agnostic and my mother is more religious, and they respect each other's view. When my mother goes to church, my father respects this. When my father doesn't want to go to church, my mother respects this. Both of them are good and kind people who wouldn't harm anyone. I've always seen them helping other people when they could. So, religious or not, is the person you are dating a kind person who has a good heart and wants to help people and not do any harm? And if one of you belongs to a religion and the other person to another religion or to none of the religions, discuss about yours and their religion, the rituals your religions have that are important to you, what your religions say about raising children, about marriage, about how men and women should behave in a marriage. What you want to discern when dating is if you are on the same page, or at least you can accept that the other person has different beliefs and habits. Generally, people marry people from the same religion. When this happens, they don't really have conflicts about this topic because they were raised within the same set of beliefs and rituals. However, in case the person you are dating is from a different religion than yours, you do need to discuss this topic in more depth, especially if you want to have children. And last but not least, sex and intimacy. My personal belief about sex is that it can create connection and love between two people, but it also can create drama and suffering. Sex is something that both men and women need to be very mindful about. And it's not an activity that should be done just because you can do it. Having sex with a person affects us more than we think, and there are consequences on all levels: physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual for both men and women. I advise against being intimate with someone if you're not sure that you want to be in a relationship with them. And this is something I also apply in my own life as I've been single and celibate for quite some time. As I've decided that sex is something I want to share only with the man I am in a committed relationship with. And if you're wondering, but Adina, how do you know that you'll be sexually compatible and you'll have great sex with this person if you don't have sex with them when you are dating them? Well, you never know for sure. But as a sex coach, here is what I can tell you. Number one, all people need to be educated on sacred sexuality, and most people need sexual healing. Why? Simply because most people have had some sort of trauma or hurt related to their sexuality. And this can go from abuse to simply being shamed for their body. And also because most people today have learned how to have sex from movies or from porn, which aren't healthy sources of sacred sexuality. Sex and our sexuality are sacred. They are our gift from God, and God wouldn't have given them to us if they had been sinful. However, in today's society, sex is portrayed as only limited to the body, and our sexuality is either seen as something dirty or as something that can just be shared with anyone, anytime, anywhere. And no, sex is not something that can be done as easily as talking to someone. Sex is a sacred act, and it shouldn't be shared with any person just because you like them. I strongly advise both single people and couples to consciously work on healing their sexual past, on discovering themselves as erotic beings, on expanding their capacity for pleasure, on getting the know how and skills when it comes to pleasuring another person, on becoming more in control of their own sexual energy. And I define this as being able to get turned on and orgasm when you want, as well as being able to decide what you do with your energy once you are turned on, because sexual energy can be redirected. It doesn't need necessarily to be used only for sex. Number two, sex is not only a physical activity. When we have sex with our whole being. So we don't connect only physically, we also connect mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. And I personally believe that sex becomes better when two people are connected on all levels. So if you do the dating process right, you have the better chances to choose a partner with whom it's easier to be connected on all levels, not only physically. Three, sexual compatibility doesn't really exist. And here is what I mean with this. Every person is different when it comes to what turns them on, the way they want to be touched and talked to, the way they reach orgasm, what they need to feel sexually fulfilled, their erotic desires and fantasies. The more you know yourself as an erotic being, the easier it becomes to have great sex with another person. When you know your needs and how to communicate them, it's easier to have them met. And when you are in a committed relationship, basically you do want to make this person happier, and this person wants to make you happier. So, as long as both of you come from a place of love and curiosity, you will figure each other out. Number four, there are five erotic blueprints, which is a similar concept to the five love languages. And these blueprints map out a person's erotic path to pleasure. And this is something I am trained in professionally and I also help my clients with. So people will fall in one or more of the five erotic categories, which are energetic, sensual, sexual, kinky, and shapeshifter. This is not something I will get into too much detail in this episode, as I will make a new separate one for them. But what I can tell you is that even though you like certain things and your partner likes other things, you can make it work and actually learn how to have great sex. In most cases, people think they are sexually incompatible because one of them is, for example, energetic or sensual, and the other is sexual or kinky. But this doesn't mean they are incompatible. It just means that they need different things in order to get turned on, reach orgasm, and feel sexually fulfilled. And this is something they can work together on. Great sex starts with great communication. And by becoming fluent in all these five erotic languages, you will not only enjoy greater pleasure yourself, but you'll also have the knowledge and the skills to offer more pleasure to your partner. And point number five, sex is not a one and done activity. It's something that can get better or worse depending on various factors like your physical, mental, emotional, spiritual health, your level of curiosity, your desire to satisfy your partner, your own capacity to feel pleasure, your desire to step out of your comfort zone and try new things in a consensual manner, your relationship with your body, knowing your boundaries and hell knows, your environment, like for example, the temperature in your room, or if you're home alone or your kids are in the other room, the quality of your relationship to your partner, meaning how safe, loved, connected, and appreciated you feel in your relationship. Do you see how many things you are in control of? Ultimately, the quality of your sex life is given by many factors, not by sexual compatibility. And for most of these factors, you are in control. And here are some questions to ponder upon. On a scale of 1 to 10, how important is sex for you? On a scale of 1 to 10, how important is sex for the person you are dating? What makes sex great for you? What's your definition of great sex? And what about the other person? What does intimacy mean to you? What does intimacy mean to them? How often would you like to have sex in your relationship? How often are you watching porn? How often is the other person watching porn? Is any of you addicted to porn? Be aware that watching porn often can lead to many problems. For example, due to watching porn, men can have performance anxiety, erectile dysfunction, premature ejaculation, low level of self-esteem and confidence as a lover. Women can be impacted in ways like feeling unhappy with their bodies, low level of self-esteem, difficulty becoming sexually aroused without porn, feeling they are not sexy or attractive enough. This is a serious matter and it's something you will need to work on with a professional if you're currently addicted to porn. And another thing to think about, very important one. Are you willing to work on yourself in order to improve your sex life? Sometimes people start their relationship and the sex is great from the beginning. However, many couples start struggling with their sex life down the road because they stop being curious, playful, and innovative. A great sex life is something you consciously co create with your partner. And as a sex coach who has multiple trainings in sexuality, I can tell you that most people know very little about sex and how sex needs to be done. Before my trainings, I thought I knew a lot about sex, but boy, was I wrong. I believe all people need to work consciously to become the best partner and lover they can possibly be. And for those of you who are ready to do this and go to the next level and become an amazing partner and lover, there are currently two ways to work with me. A free one by downloading the 5 embodiment practices, which you can find on my website. The package for women is called Magnetic Woman, and the package for men is called Confident Man. And you can find the links in the description below. And a paid one by entering my one-to-one coaching container, where we will work together on you getting clear on your needs and desires when it comes to a long-term relationship, healing your past wounds so you attract a healthy person, dating from a place of empowerment instead of neediness, mastering your sexuality, getting the skills you need to create a happy and fulfilling long-term relationship. Thank you for listening to this episode, and if you found it helpful, please share it with one or more friends. And if you are listening this on YouTube, please like the video. It helps me a lot with the algorithm. I appreciate your time and energy, and I hope to meet you again in my next episode. Bye!